this is Sophie Lawson from sophielawson.com. Did you hear that? It was a little burp. And this is episode 43 of the Sophie Art Podcast, which is a little podcast I do about art and tings. And this one's going to be all about Lucid Dreaming Practice. I'm going to talk about some things that I do that I found to be helpful, and also talk about how lucid dreaming is like an investment, and I'm struggling to try to get it in balance with everything. So this one was going to be about SVS Learn, but I promise that will be the next one, because I'm still studying from svslearn.com, and the reason it's going to be the next one is because this week I started doing sculpting, like with clay, and I want the podcast to include sculpting, so I'm gonna leave it into the next one so that I can talk about that as well. But I do love svslearn.com, and I'm really looking forward to doing that podcast. But this one is mainly about lucid dreaming. We also have the book, which is book number 7, and it's going to be about Journeys Out of the Body by Robert Monroe again, because I've pretty much finished the book now, and there's something that relates to lucid dreaming that I wanted to talk about. So that's this week's book. We have the little art tip, which is number 20, and it is to draw what you love. And we have fascinating fact number 2, which is all about the amount of time that the average person spends in a lifetime dreaming. So that's what's coming up on this episode. You can find show notes and stuff at sophielawson.com, and you can also find my videos on YouTube at youtube.com/sophielawson. So the main topic is Lucid Dream Practice, and I'm just going to talk about, I think I've got 5 little things written down that I found have been really helpful in helping me with lucid dreaming. And the reason I'm talking about this is because the last episode was all about planning, and what I had done was I had planned 8 hours of sleep, and everything else was pretty much art, and with a couple of hours before bed where I would do lucid dream practice. But what I noticed in that first week was it just wasn't working, and what I've since noted or realised is that lucid dreaming, at least for me, it requires a lot more time sleeping. Because what I've been doing, because I've got this dream diary and I write everything down, but in my passion planner I've been tracking the amount of time I spend sleeping. I also track any dreams that I'm having. So if I have a lucid dream, I'm tracking that, and I'm tracking what I'm doing before I go to sleep, so I can try to work out what is working. And what I've found out is I really need 12 hours, well 10 to 12 hours. 10 to 12 hours seems to be the magic point for me to have, like, increase the chances of lucid dreaming. And the problem with this is I'm trying to do all this art stuff as well, and to dedicate 12 hours to lucid dreaming, I kind of didn't want to do that, but I think I have to do that. So that's where I'm struggling. At the moment I'm struggling with realising that lucid dreaming does take a lot of energy and effort, and so I'm going to have to sacrifice things, but I'll talk about that in a minute, what I do. And the reason that I talk about lucid dreaming a lot on this podcast is because I really know that it is, like, really helpful for creativity. So it's good for, like, if you're writing books, novels, you can come up with ideas, so you can go into lucid dreams and experience things which you can talk about and write about. And these are, like, really magical things that you just wouldn't, I don't think you would ever be able to come up with them on your own. And then, like, I just think about the future, when the sort of things you could do with lucid dreaming if you're good at painting and stuff. You know, it's just, there's so much potential there, but it's also really good for healing and stuff like that. And something I've noticed is that a lot of artists we tend to be introverts, and that is something that I am still struggling with. And I know there's a difference between like social anxiety and introvert, but there is very close, and I really feel like lucid dreaming helps or can help with, I guess, like accepting introvert and social stuff. So it's got so many like benefits and stuff. So I'll talk about some of the ways it's helped me as well. So that's why I talk about lucid dreaming a lot on the podcast. So this one I'm going to talk about 5 little things I do which I have found to be really helpful. And the first one is Robert Wagner's little tip about looking at your hands before you go to bed. You look at your hands, you stare at your hands, and for 5 minutes you just repeat over and over, tonight in my dreams I will see my hands and realise I'm dreaming. Tonight in my dreams I'll see my hands and realise I'm dreaming. So I've been doing lucid dreaming now, like practicing it for, it must be about 10 months, and one of the first things I learnt was Robert Wagner's thing about looking at the hands, but I never really did it because I didn't feel like it was working for me. But I now realise the reason it wasn't working for me was because I wasn't really doing it properly. What I was doing was I was looking at my hands and saying, tonight in my dreams I see my hands and realise I'm dreaming. But after about a minute I was kind of getting a bit bored of it, because it is a little bit tedious, and it's a little bit, well yeah, it's a bit tedious to just sit there looking at your hands, tonight in my dreams I see my hands, realise I'm dreaming. So I wasn't doing it properly but I thought I was, but I wasn't, and it's only now, because what I've started doing is, I listened to a podcast with Robert Wagner, and he said about setting an alarm for 5 minutes. And then, so I've started now, for the last week or two, I've been setting a 5-minute alarm, and then what I'll do is, I have to look at my hands for those 5 minutes. Even if it gets really tedious, I have to do it because I know that it's going to work. So, and that has helped a lot, but it's amazing how long 5 minutes actually is when you're just doing that. But that has helped, and the reason I know it's helped is because the last week I've had a couple of dreams where I've actually been looking at my hands, and one of them, there was this bowl of water, and I threw my hands into the water, and that's what made me become lucid. And I didn't realise, it was only later when I was writing in my dream diary, and I wrote, I threw my hands into a bowl of water and I became lucid, and then I wrote, why did I become lucid doing that? And that was when I realised that it's because I looked at my hands. And there was something else the other day. The other day I had a lucid dream where I looked at my hands, but I looked at my hands after I had become lucid, and it's like my hands were sort of transparent. It was really weird. But so I've noticed that I'm looking at my hands a lot now. So I know that one does work, but that one requires, you really have to force yourself to commit to that one. That's probably the one that is the least fun, I would say, but it does seem to be working. The next one is something I find really helpful, is to listen to lucid dreaming stuff before bed. So what I do is 30 minutes before bed I will just randomly search YouTube for lucid dreaming, and I'm normally looking for either Robert Wagner, Dr. Claire Johnson, Keith Hearn, and sometimes Stephen LeBurge, and also Charlie Morley sometimes. But the 3 people that I really like a lot are Robert Wagner, Claire Johnson, and Keith Hearn. Keith Hearn doesn't do many, but I find him really fascinating. Claire Johnson's done quite a lot, and Robert Wagner's done quite a lot as well. And I even sometimes just repeat them. So even if I've already heard them, I'll just listen to them again, because I always seem to pick up new things. And a lot of them are like multiple hours long, so you can easily get like a couple of weeks worth of YouTube. And the reason I think this helps is because you're going to bed thinking about lucid dreaming, because it's in your head. But the thing is, I'm not watching the videos, I'm just playing them in the background whilst I'm sketching. So I'm also like improving my drawings, and it's just a nice, fun, relaxing way to get into sleep, to get into bed, like into sleep thing. And something else I've noticed is that this seems to come into the dreams as well, because I've had so many dreams where I seem to be interacting with people who are good at lucid dreaming. Like one time, and this was quite mad, I woke up and I was in my bed, but I had like some sort of monk sat on my bed in like some sort of meditative like stance, and what he was doing was he had this telescope. It was him that made me become lucid, and he had this telescope which I could look for this telescope, and what it did was it allowed me to focus on anything. So I could look for this telescope, and I could, for instance, if I looked through the telescope and I was looking at, say, my mirror, I was able to focus on stuff in between me and the mirror. So this telescope was allowing me to it was allowing me to focus on like things inside of the space, almost like it was allowing me to focus on atoms or something. It was really weird, but I woke up from that and I realised that monk, he was teaching me how to focus, because what he also did was he said, if you think about it raining, it will rain. So he did it first, and it started raining in my bedroom, and then he stopped that, and then he said, right, now you try it. So I thought, at first I thought, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, but I thought, it's now going to start raining, and it started raining, and I thought, wow, I've actually done it. And then I thought, let's see if I can do this. So I said, it's now going to start snowing. And I actually started making it snow in my bedroom. And that was like one of these crazy dreams. And I've had a lot of those where it seems like wise people are coming into my dreams to help me. And I feel like this is because I'm listening to lucid dreaming stuff before bed. And I've had a lot of dreams as well where lucid dreaming people have been on monitors inside of the dream, but a lot of the time that doesn't trigger me to become lucid, but I wake up thinking, wow, there's actually people in these dreams who are helping you. So that's definitely something I think is a really helpful thing to do, and it's probably one of my most fun things, because you're learning about lucid dreaming and you can also do something else at the same time. So I do sketching because I think it's a nice relaxing thing to do before bed. The other thing, which I think is probably the most important, is to keep a dream diary. I think my dream diary is now on, it's on day 424. And what I do in my dream diary is, before I go to bed, the first thing I do before I go to bed, right as I'm about to go to sleep, so the last thing I do, what I'll do is I'll flick through my dream diary at the previous day, and I'll just read about all of my dreams, because then I'm going to bed thinking about my dreams, and I feel like that helps me. I feel like that helps me just become more aware of my dreams. So what I do in my dream diary is I'll write the number. So I'll write 423, which is the number. This is the number of days I've been tracking my dreams. I'll then write down, am I dreaming, just to get me thinking about am I dreaming. At the very top I write spin, clap and sing, because what I've noticed is when I become lucid, sometimes the dreams, like I can feel that I'm about to wake up, so you need to do things to stabilise the dream, to keep you in there. And things I've noticed that help me, one is spinning. So if I think about spinning, that seems to help me stay lucid or stay in the dream. Another thing is clapping, which is a bit weird. For some reason clapping, maybe it's just because you're distracting yourself by clapping, but that seems to help. And then the other thing is to sing. And it's really funny, this one time I was in a dream, I could feel that the dream was like about to crumble, I was about to wake up. So what I did was I started running along this road. It was like a little path. I was clapping my hands, sort of skipping and singing. What had happened was I just hit a light switch. and that's what made me lucid. But I was just about to wake up, I could tell, so I started clapping and singing. The lights don't work, so I must be asleep. The lights don't work, so I must be asleep. And then, for some reason, that just made the dream, it put the dream into more focus and kept me in the dream. And then I actually woke up, like, laughing, thinking about doing that. And then ever since, I've just wrote that down. But the one that works the best is spinning. For some reason, it's always about spinning. I've noticed that. There's something about spinning. But in my dream diary, I also write, I am lucid dreaming. It's like a little affirmation that I do just to remind myself that I'm lucid dreaming. I write the date so that I can remember what date this is. And then I also write my goal. So at the moment, my goal is to go back to the place where I was born, because I want to basically go into my childhood, and just because I'm trying to find out where a lot of my social issues are coming from. And I know they're in my childhood because a lot of my dreams have been basically telling me that that's where I need to go. And I had a dream where what happened was I was in this dream and I went into my childhood house, and in this like evil voice it just said, "Get out, don't come back." And I thought the dream self, because I don't think I was lucid in that one, I was like, I felt more like an observer in that dream, and I was observing this dream character opening the door, and then this voice said, "Get out, don't come back." And then the dream character said, "No, why should I?" But then the voice was so creepy that it woke me up, and it was only later in my dream diary that I wrote about it. And I feel like what that was I feel like what that was it was my, what I think it was my subconscious knowing that this is where I'm supposed to be, because this is where the answers are, and it was telling me to get out because it doesn't want, because it's really weird, it's like the shadow self or something. There's part of you that doesn't want you to face these things because it's afraid, and also I think because it knows it's gonna, if you actually face your fears, you're gonna change, and it probably doesn't want you to change or something, but I'm sure that's what it was. So that is my goal now, is to go back there and basically just confront whatever the fear is inside of that place. But it's proving quite hard to go back there. So even though I've had quite a lot of lucid dreams this week, I haven't been able to go back there. But I definitely think a dream diary is probably the most important thing. And again, this is a fun thing, because even if you don't become lucid, you're going to start remembering your dreams, and it's just amazing. It's amazing to see what you're dreaming about. Some of the dreams you have are so bonkers, and then some of the dreams are so amazing. Like, I wake up from dreams and I know that I have been to another place, and I'm interacting with these amazing people, and I'm just thinking to myself, how many dreams are we having each night where we're not even aware of what we are doing? We could be having some amazing, like, wisdom given to us, and we're not remembering it. But that doesn't mean we're not having it. It's just, it means we're not remembering it. But this is why I love the dream diary, because like the more and more you write in your dream diary, the more you remember. And it is like they say, you start to notice things that are like popping up all the time, and what they call those dream signs. So for instance, one of my dream signs, it's a bit random, but it seems to be sitting on a toilet. So I've noticed that I have a lot of dreams where I'm sitting on a toilet, and so what I've started trying to do is, if I am sitting on a toilet, I want to, in a dream, I want to try to say, "Am I dreaming?" Because then I'll be able to realise I'm dreaming. So you can use your dream diary to find dream signs, which you can then use to help you become lucid. So it all sort of comes together. And the next thing is actually reality checks, which is what you can use. That's what the dream signs helps you with. It helps you to do reality checks to ask, "Am I dreaming?" But my favourite reality check is light switches, which I've talked about many times. And what it is in a dream, light switches don't seem to work. So if you hit a light switch in a dream, if it doesn't work, you know that will trigger you to become lucid. And so what I do is, any time I hit a light switch in the real world, like now, I say, am I dreaming? And if the light comes on and off like it should, you know you're not dreaming, because it's really weird. But in a dream, light switches don't seem to work, which is really weird. But what's really funny about this is, so this week, I think it was 2 days ago, I had a dream and I was in the passage, and for some reason the dream character wanted to hit the light switch, but there wasn't a light switch there, and I wasn't lucid, but the dream character said, there's no light switches, I won't be able to become lucid. And I woke up and started laughing about that, because it's like, it's quite funny, because it's as if the dream is saying, you have now put yourself in a position where you need a light switch to become lucid, but you don't. But I should have realised in that moment, that I was dreaming, because there was no light switch, and there should have been a light switch. So that, I think that sometimes the dream talks to you, and it was, in that moment, I think it was saying, you can't rely on these light switches. You know, they will help you become lucid, but you can't rely on them. Something like that. I certainly learnt a lot from that, and it was really funny, because there was no light switches anywhere where there should have been light switches. So again, it felt like the dream was removing the light switches. And then the other day I had a dream where I woke up and I went to write in my dream diary, and I hit the light switch to turn the light on, and it didn't work. And I hit the light switch about 30 times because I was convinced that I was awake. I could not believe that I was in a dream. And this is the thing that I love about like lucid dreaming, is when you become aware that you're dreaming, there's a moment sometimes, it's normally when I'm doing a reality check with a light switch, there's this moment where you are just convinced you're awake, and then when you realise you're dreaming, your mind sometimes can't handle it. So that one was quite funny. It was like about 30 times I just kept hitting this light switch, convinced that there was something wrong. But reality checks are definitely a really good way to become lucid. It's probably my most favourite way to become lucid. But the thing with that is, it's always 99% of the time I'm hitting light switches in my bed, which says to me that I'm having a lot of dreams where I'm waking up, which they say are false awakenings. But I wonder, this is why I think false awakenings and a lot of dreams are actually out of body. I feel like there's a crossover there, and I'm going to talk about that a bit when I talk about the book later on. So that's basically the main things I do to become lucid. Another thing I wanted to say about was not moving when you wake up. So when you wake up and you want to write your dreams down, it's really important to not move. And it's a bit weird, but for some reason the position of your body seems to keep the memory of the dream inside of it. And again, I think this might be going into the out body thing. I think you've got like this spirit body and the physical body. I think what's maybe happening is the dream is being stored in the spirit body or something, and so when you move, your spirit body isn't moving, so your physical body is, and it must be something like that. It's putting you out of sync. So if you stay in the position when you wake up and don't move, you have a much better chance of remembering the dream. Because I've had so many times where I wake up, I've got this amazing dream that I can't wait to write out, and I'll like move because I'll go to put the light on, and as soon as the light comes on, I go to write it down and I can't remember it. So in like a split second it's gone, and it's really frustrating because you can still feel the dream. It's weird, you can feel everything about the dream. You can feel like how powerful it was, but there's no words in your head to be able to describe it. and it fades away. Every now and again it might come back later on, because what I've also noticed is when I'm writing in my dream diary, sometimes as I'm writing the dream that I've just remembered, it will trigger a previous dream that I'd forgotten about, which is quite weird. And sometimes I've been able to get the dream back by like writing my dream diary later on, but it's really annoying when you're forgetting, that phase when the dream is fading out of your head. I hate that, because it's like you can't get it back. It's quite sad actually, especially when it's one of those dreams that you are convinced is really powerful. But again, it makes me wonder, how many lucid dreams and stuff are we having where we're not remembering them? So just like imagine some of the stuff we must be getting up to when we're going to sleep and we're not remembering. It fascinates me. So that's basically the main things that I've found to be helpful with lucid dreaming. But I wanted to talk a bit about how it takes a lot of time. So like another thing actually, there's one more thing, is meditation. I feel like meditation is really good for lucid dreaming because it just gets your head into a good place. It gets your head into it empties your head basically, so that you can have less things to think about when you're trying to go to sleep. So I also meditate. My little ritual, I guess, is to stop drawing, and what I normally do is I have something to eat, because again I find something I've noticed as well is, there's another thing as well. See, I should have wrote these down. Another thing I've found to be really helpful. Actually, I would say this is the most helpful, because I've also been writing it in my dream diary. What I'll do is I'll wake up, and recently I haven't been doing as much studying. I've actually been going back to bed, which is what I'm going to talk about in a minute, about how lucid dreaming takes a lot of time. But what I'll do is I'll wake up and I'll do my automatic writing, and I normally have that automatic writing be based around dreaming. So I'll be writing about some dreams or stuff like that, just so that I'm keeping dreams in my head. And then what I'll do is I will write into my dream diary, I will write the time that I woke up, and I normally have a bowl of cereal, and then I'll go back to bed for 3 or 4 hours, and it's normally then that I have the most amount of dreams. So like my dream diary here, the other day I went to sleep at 3:30 p.m, but I didn't have any dreams that I remembered, and then I woke up at 9 p.m. I woke up and had some cereal, I went back to bed, and then I had a ton of dreams. So there's 6 hours there where I didn't have any dreams that I remembered. I then woke up and I would have been awake for about 30 minutes. I went back to bed and I actually had a lucid dream as well. Because what I also do in my dream diary is on the margin, I write if I have a lucid dream, just so that I can flick through it to see when I'm doing stuff, I can track when I'm lucid dreaming. So wake back to bed is also a fun thing, and I made myself laugh the other day because I made up. It's called wake back to bed because what you do is you wake up and then you stay awake for 30 minutes or something and go back to bed. And for some reason this seems to increase your chances of having lucid dreams. And I think somebody explained it as, what it is your mind is now more awake, but your body is still asleep. So you go to sleep, and because you've woken up, your mind is a bit more awake, so you've got more chance of being aware of dreaming. I think that's what's going on. But I made myself laugh because I said, instead of calling it wake back to bed, I've called it bake back to bed. So I say it's bake back to bed, and what you have to do is you get out of bed, bake a cake, and then you go back to bed. I don't know, I think maybe you had to be there. It was funny when I said it, bake back to bed. It's like a fun way of remembering to do it. Bake back to bed. And I'm sure I might end up having a dream where I'm baking a cake, and maybe I'll bake a cake and that will trigger lucidity. Something, that'd be funny. So, but what I wanted to talk about was it takes so much time to do this. It doesn't have to, I don't think, but I think it does if you really want to really want to get the benefits out of it. At least for me, 8 hours of sleep doesn't seem to be enough to have a lucid dream. I might get the odd random lucid dream here and there, but it's that 4 hours after the 8 hours, which is normally after I wake back to bed, it's then that I seem to have the most lucid dreams and stuff. But like I said, 12 hours is a lot of time, and what goes back to last episode where I talked about planning, I think what happened was last week I woke up at 12 o'clock to do my studying, and this was just after having done the podcast, and something happened during that lucid dream, and what happened was it made me realise that I really have to focus on lucid dreaming, and I'll talk about some of the reasons why I think lucid dreaming is worth investing in. But I'm now in this strange place where my heart is saying focus on lucid dreaming and focus on studying art, because I can put 12 hours into lucid dreaming, and I can also put like 3 hours of studying, but if I do that I can't do anything else. So I'm now in this really weird place of my heart wants me to go all in on this lucid dreaming, but my head is saying you've got to do these other things, but I don't think I do. So there's a bit of conflict there, and that's what I'm struggling with. I need a wee. I always need a wee during these podcasts. I think I'm not going to talk about any more about this bit, because I think I need to work it out in my head. But I think there must be a balance point where you can really focus on lucid dreaming, but also do the other things, because if you go all in on lucid dreaming, that can't really be good for you, because you need to be doing other things as well. But I wanted to talk a little bit about why I want to invest so much time in lucid dreaming. And I feel like it's so powerful for so many things. So you've got all the creativity things, like you can go into dreams and interact with characters that you've created or that you want to create. You can go in there and just find artwork and then bring it back and paint it. So you've got lots of potential for creativity, but you've also, if you've got a lot of mental issues or things that you're struggling with and need to sort out, things that you need to heal from the past, it's amazing for that. And then also it's just massively spiritual, so you can go out and explore, and like for instance you can go into a lucid dream and go out into the universe, like I did the other day with the black hole. And there's something powerful about this, and it just makes you realise just how there's so much that we don't know about this universe. So it's just to me, lucid dreaming is like the best thing in the world. I can't think of anything better. So the main thing is it's just a fun thing to do, really. But for me, it's helped me so far. It's helped me deal with like healing from child abuse that I had. It's helped me sort out my relationships with my mum and dad. And like an example of this is, well, I'm always like this when I'm doing these podcasts. I have so many ideas, I want to talk about them all at the same time. But it's also helped me, it will help you become a better person. There's no way you cannot become a better person if you start lucid dreaming, because what happens is that the more you become aware in your dreams, the more you become aware when you're awake. And if you're aware when you're awake, you can't help but become a better person. So there's just so many benefits to lucid dreaming. I also feel like it's going to really help me with my social situations. I'm trying to improve my social skills basically, and find out the source of them, which I know is in my childhood, but I can't find them. I'm struggling to find them, but in the lucid dream I'm starting to scratch the surface. I can feel it. So if you're struggling with things which you just can't get to the bottom of in your head, like even meditating, I've been struggling to find out where all these social issues I have are coming from. But in the dream, you can just go directly into it. But it's like Robert Wagner says, you have to go towards the energy. I think this is key. Lucid dreaming is all about being fearless. So, like that time when I went into that house, my childhood house, and that evil voice said, "Get out." Like at that moment, I wasn't, I guess, brave enough to face it. So I woke up. But if I can go in there in a lucid dream with the intention of facing it, you know, I'm gonna become fearless and face it. And what normally happens is these things that are scary or uncomfortable, they always, when you embrace them, they always end up becoming nice, and they always just like disintegrate basically. And then when you wake up, you're a different person. Whatever that issue was, it goes away. Like my childhood abuse, that's kind of gone now. Like whatever that issue was is like gone away. So lucid dreaming is really good for finding peace, I guess. But what was I going to say? There's something about mum and dad. Oh yeah. So this is how powerful it can be. I'm 38. It would have been 5, 6, 7, 8, 25 years ago when I had this like child abuse, and I had never ever spoke to my mum about it because my mum was there when it happened. Never spoke about it with my mum, and then because of all these lucid dreams I've had, I was able to heal it on the inside, and then I was able to talk to my mum about it. And the only reason I could talk to my mum about it, which was one of the most amazing conversations we've ever had, so it kind of did bring us closer together. The only reason I could do that was because of all the stuff I was doing in the lucid dreams. So this is, again, you feel like going into lucid dreams or spending all this time in the dream place, you feel like that's gonna be a negative influence on your waking state, but it actually goes the other way. It actually makes you just a better person and more aware and more in the moment, really. So I know how powerful this stuff is. And there's one more thing which I know, this is probably the most important thing, and that is to do with death. I mean, I've started to realise from what I'm experiencing and also what I'm reading and what I'm listening to is that when we die, we are just going to carry on, but we are effectively going to go into another dream state. I think when we die, all that's going to happen is we are going to go into a dream. So most people, when we die, we're just going to end up in a dream, totally unaware that we're dreaming, just like most of our dreams. But if we can focus on becoming aware whilst we're still awake, whilst we're still alive, if we can become aware in our dreams, when we die, we might be able to become aware when we're dead. So instead of just drifting through that death phase and probably being brought back into another into another life, because I'm starting to believe in reincarnation and stuff like that. It's seeming to make sense with all of this lucid dreaming stuff. But what it is if you can become aware whilst you're alive in your dreams, I think there is a chance that when you die, you could carry that awareness in, and then if you can do that, who knows what you could do. Instead of being at the control of the dream, because I think what would happen is your subconscious would make all the decisions, and because a lot of my subconscious things are quite negative, like how in social situations, subconsciously, if I'm not aware, I will pull back and I'll avoid it because it's a bit frightening. But then that means I'm going to miss out on interacting with people, and I'm just going to limit myself. So if I die and my subconscious is going to end up limiting me and taking me down a direction that isn't going to be best for me. If I can become aware and follow the rule of embracing going towards the energy and being fearless, and because you would know that you're actually like dreaming effectively, you'd know that it's not really real, even if, because what they say is that you're going to come face to face with like pure loving beings and pure evil beings, and that might actually be why we don't remember it, is because maybe it is like so traumatic or something that it's best that we don't. But maybe this is why it's so, because a lot of lucid dreaming is to do with fear, overcoming fears, and maybe it is because it knows if you can overcome the fears in your lucid dreams, you'll be able to overcome the fears in death. And I'm sure that that dreams are just testing you, constantly testing you, almost to see if you're worthy of transcending death. That's what I think. So I feel like lucid dreaming is just going to be massively important, even when we die. And it's quite funny because there's a quote that people say, which is, "There's plenty of time to sleep when you're dead." Because I'm thinking like, I'm putting all this time into sleeping, which is going to take away time from like producing art and stuff. But then I think, if I don't do that, when I die, I will sleep. Whereas if I put all this time now into like dreaming and stuff, maybe instead of sleeping when I die, maybe I can become awake. So plenty of time to sleep when you're dead, but I don't want to be sleeping when I'm dead. I want to be awake. Let's get into this week's book, and it's a book that I have talked about before, and it's Journeys Out of the Body by Robert A. Monroe. And the reason I wanted to talk about it on this one is because I was reading it last night, just before I go to sleep. I normally read a book, and what he said was he was talking about like some of the experiments he's done, and he's basically put them into years. So he talks about September 1958 to 1959. He talks about the experiments he was doing in like the outer body place, and he's talking about his findings. And then he gets into the later stage, which is October 1962 to October 1970, and he wrote something that just made me think, wow, this is exactly what I'm going through at the moment with my lucid dreaming. So he started out and he said, experimentation was limited during this period due principally to lack of opportunity. Preoccupation with material affairs took precedence, with evaluation of previous work as a secondary effort. And what that made me realise was that even Robert Monroe, who is, I think he's like the grandfather of outer body, so he's like a master of outer bodiness, even he was struggling with finding the balance between like doing the experimentations to understand the outer body place and also basically like living a life. And this is the thing, you're trying to do all this stuff which you know is important, but you've got things you've also got to do in the real world. So I just really liked that, because it made me think, wow, you know, this guy, he still pulled it off even though he had a lot of things to do. But it also made me realise how outer body is just as time consuming as lucid dreaming. And it goes back to something else as well, because in this book, Robert Monroe talks about a lot of experiences where they sound just like things I've been having, and I've always thought that they were lucid dreams, but he thinks they're out of body. And I've started thinking that now, like what I've said many times before, especially with false awakenings, which is when you wake up and you think you're awake but you're still asleep, like I'm convinced that they're all the same thing. I don't think there's a difference between dreaming and out of body. And I also don't think there's a difference between meditation either, because some meditations I've had, they've been so vividly visual and real, and it's exactly the same feeling as lucid dreaming and out of body. So I think it's all the same thing. And I never really realised that until reading this book. I started thinking, you know, this, because I'd always thought maybe it was just the false awakenings that was different, but I'm now thinking that it's all the same thing. But this book is really good, actually. I've only got about 20 pages left, and it starts out a bit weird. I wasn't sure I was going to like it because he was just talking about stuff that I thought, I don't know if I like this. But as you get into it, he starts talking about his experiences, and he, as I've said before, he breaks it down into experiments, and it's really just fascinating what he's talking about. And especially if you're into lucid dreaming and stuff, you'll start to notice the similarities. But he also gives you ideas on like things to try in the out of body place, and he also talks about various like exercises that he does on how to become lucid, and one of them is spinning, which is something because what I do is I spin like vertically, so I spin as if my head is spinning towards my toes like that. And it's quite weird because the other day I had a dream which was just a regular dream, but in this dream I was actually spinning in my bed like that, and I woke up from that thinking like even my dream self is now practicing out of body stuff in the dream, which is weird. But the way he does it is he spins the other way, so he spins as if his head is going to spin, and he ends up looking at his body. So I've never actually been able to look at my body in a dream, or not that I've remembered, because the way I spin is I spin like vertically, I guess, and he spins horizontally. So but I haven't actually tried to do that yet. So again, like I say, he's giving you little exercises that you can go and do for yourself, and when he's explaining them, you do realise that they are going to take a lot of dedication and focus, really. And he also talks about the importance of meditation, and he uses something called hemisync, which is like binaural beats, which you can get them on YouTube. If you look for hemisync on YouTube, there's actually one from the Monroe Institute. I'll put a link in the show notes. It lasts about 30 minutes. The Monroe Institute is actually what Robert Monroe created. It's all to do with like out of body and stuff. But this hemisync meditation, which is 30 minutes, I've had some really, really weird experiences with that. I've not gone fully out of body, but I've had a lot of moments where I could tell that if I had more confidence in myself and I wasn't afraid, I know that I was like a split second away from going out of body. Because what happens is you start going through this like vibration phase, which he talks about in this book. It's a really weird phase where you're like, for me it's like my body goes fuzzy. So that hemisync meditation thing, which is on YouTube, that's actually been able to trigger this like vibration phase. So I definitely know that he's doing something, and it's, if nothing else, it's a really relaxing meditation. And something really funny that happens during that is a lot of the time I will fall asleep, and I'll fall asleep during the meditation and I'll be able to hear myself snoring, which, if you think about that, if you're asleep and you can hear yourself snoring, that means your mind isn't asleep. So, because how can you hear yourself snoring if you're asleep? So it just proves that something is happening. It's like that meditation is putting your body to sleep, but not your mind. But again, I'm still at this point where I'm not able to take it to the next level, really. I'm sort of right at the very beginning phase, but it's definitely doing something. So I'll put a link in the show notes, and that is basically this week's book, Journeys Out of the Body by Robert Monroe. I definitely recommend that one. Then we also have the fascinating fact, and this week's fascinating fact is also to do with dreams, and it's to do with the amount of time that the average person spends dreaming in their lifetime. So this isn't the amount of time you spend asleep, it's the amount of time you spend dreaming. Because I think I don't know the facts about it, but it's something like 2 hours of dreaming a night for every 8 hours or something like that. I should have looked into that. But what I do know is that the average person dreams for 6 years in their lifetime. And what it works out as, Robert Wagner has he spoke about this before, I think it's every 11 years that you're alive, you're spending 1 year in the dreams. So that just shows you how much time you're spending in the dreams. And if you can become aware whilst you're dreaming, effectively you're going to get an extra year. Every 11 years you're going to get an extra year where you're awake. So I found that a fascinating fact, because I didn't realise how long we actually spend dreaming. So that's this episode's fascinating fact. I hope you like that. Now we have the little art tip, and this little art tip is basically to draw what you love. And the reason this is important is because if you're not drawing what you love, firstly it will show somehow, I don't know how, but when you're drawing what you love, your drawing shows that you love what you're drawing. Whereas if you're drawing something which you don't love, somehow the drawing shows it. And I think we can all feel it subconsciously when somebody has done a drawing that they didn't love. Somehow you can see it. So it's vital for that, but it's also important because when you're struggling, for instance, to get the motivation to draw, if you're drawing things that you don't want to be drawing, that's going to make it even harder to get into the drawing. So if you're drawing what you love, there's less chance that you're going to struggle to draw, because you're going to love what you're doing, which is fun. There's a really good example of this, and when I first started doing my pencil drawings, I started having people ask me to do drawings for them, like commissions, and something inside of me said, no, I don't want to do that, because I want to be drawing what I want to be drawing. I don't want to be drawing what other people want me to draw, because again, I won't have a feeling for it. But one time I said yes, and I did a drawing for somebody where I had to draw, because I love drawing females and femininity, but this drawing was of a bloke, and I didn't really have any excitement for it, but I did it because I thought it would be a nice thing to do, and it's probably one of my least favourite drawings I've ever done. I almost hated drawing, and it was then that I realised that it is possible to not enjoy the drawing process if you're drawing something that you don't love. If you're drawing something that you don't love. So that was in 2014, I think, and that's when I realised. And from that moment on, I always said, I'm never going to do drawings of things that I don't want to draw, because I think if you kept doing that, you could end up actually hating drawing. And then if that went on for long enough, I think you could reach a point where even if you sat down to draw what you loved, you wouldn't enjoy it anymore, because you've actually you've killed the passion for drawing, because you've now associated drawing with this feeling of not fun, basically. So I think the most important thing to do is to always draw what you love. And I do believe that is another podcast. And do you know what that means? So that's episode 43 of the So Free Art podcast. I hope you enjoyed that one. You can find show notes and stuff at sophielawson.com, and pretty much that's it, really. So all that's left is this week's inspirational quote, and it goes to Joseph Campbell. And this is a quote that popped into my head again recently, the last couple of days, and it's a quote I found right at the beginning of this little journey, and I stuck it on my website, and it's basically it's been on my website since the very beginning, and for some reason it's as if this quote, I know how important it is, but I maybe don't want to accept it as truth, because sometimes I do wonder sometimes whether art is nothing more than something that came into my life to help me transition and become lucid and stuff like this, whereas I want art to be my career. maybe it's not meant to be that. I do wonder that sometimes. And the reason I think that is because sometimes especially when I focus on art at the cost and put everything else aside. So in other words, if I focus on my art and forget about everything else, I always end up hitting this horrible place. Whereas if I focus on my lucid dreaming and forget about everything else, which I've done before, I don't get that same feeling. So that says to me that maybe art isn't what I think it's supposed to be. I'm not sure, but the quote from Joseph Campbell is, "We must let go of the life we have planned so as to accept the one that is waiting for us." Joseph Campbell. I wonder what those birds are singing. Are they shouting? Are they shouting out in pain, asking for help? Are they shouting out love because they're up there flying about having lots of fun? What are they saying? What are birds saying? See, that one sounds a bit like it's in pain to me. Sounds like it's saying, "Help! Help!" And there's one there that's laughing. That one sounds like a cry for help. Like saying, it sounds like a war cry, like, "Come on lads, come over here." I always wonder what birds are thinking.